All right. Hello and welcome. How is everyone doing on what I hope is a fantastic Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday, March the 25th. So you might notice you don't see Jeff right now. So last I spoke to Jeff, he should be on his way. But um, I don't see him over in our StreamYard area. And it also looks slightly different. So I'm wondering if I'm just being an idiot and he's there and I can't see him because I don't know the new interface, or if he's on his way. I do know that he has the past couple weeks um, been having to kind of get things together at the last second because he's been out. You guys are aware that he's been having some family stuff that he's been working with. So I'm gonna stall here just for a minute, and hopefully Jeff will be able to join us. And yeah, Jeff was in the chat. Hey Jeff, let us know if you're on the way. And yeah, Matthew fired Jeff. No, Thomas, I did not fire Jeff. Hey, here he is. Let me go ahead and bring him on. Hey there, Jeff. How you doing? Oh, okay. Well, we'll still blame Matthew for that one. There's going to be plenty of other issues, I'm sure. Well, how's your week going? Oh, hold on, Jeff. I am so sorry. I don't have you. I'm an idiot. It was me this time. Hey, there's Jeff.
Yeah,
So,
here I am. I am here. It was
uh,
partially my fault. I had the wrong StreamYard link, so I was sitting in the wrong room.
yeah. So I added him to Streamyard, and I forgot to change the scene over in OBS Studio. I still. It was a combo effort. I'm so sorry, Jeff. If you'd please start over.
So Matthew asked how my week is going, and for those of you that don't know, it's been kind of a rough time the past week or so. I'm still in Ohio. My mom did pass away last Wednesday. I want to thank everyone for their thoughts and prayers that you've sent out. I know some of you that have donated some things as well. So thank you very much. My family is very appreciative of that. I'm still in Ohio right now. I'm helping my dad get his financing and his insurance and everything transferred over as far as property and deeds and that sort of thing. I'll probably be here for a few more days, planning to go back to Texas sometime early next week or maybe over this weekend. So next week you should see me in Texas, I would think. But
Oh,
we're
good.
here tonight, and we're we're doing okay. We're dealing with things, and again, I just want to thank everyone for all your thoughts and prayers. And while we're talking about this, for those of you that watched me on A Question of Trek, Zoe Kirk Robinson is going through something very similar to what I'm going through. She just lost her mom on Sunday. So if you want to
Hmm.
send out your prayers and thoughts for her, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah. Is
Thomas
Zoe the
wants to
one
know
that does all
Texas,
the?
Ohio, or Texas, Texas? Uh, Neither. I'll be in San Angelo, Texas.
Is is Zoe the one who does all the animations for Question of Trek?
Yes. Yes.
She does an amazing job on those.
Oh, yeah. She's brilliant.
You were Come
Really
on
love
now.
her.
Texas was saying he was just in San Angelo.
Really?
I'm surprised. So I got to pass through briefly once because a mentor of mine, he was doing a programming job on the water system out there.
Oh, okay.
And that I mean that was a long time ago now. In fact, it
Well,
was
and Go ahead.
I was saying it's actually a little one of those like, oh wow, I have become old moments where today on a meeting with the internal department meeting, we're talking about different credentials and the company I'm working for is hoping to be able to reach the next level with one of the big names and what I do. And so, hey, I got some certifications there. I pull them up. My most recent certification with them is from 2011.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
like, this is a 14-year-old certification. I have truly become old. And I think it's like so painfully outdated too. I mean, the information is still relevant. It's just the certification. I'm pretty sure they're gonna be like, nah, you gotta take it again.
Probably so. But I met you in person
That's right.
twice, according to Thomas.
I mean, we got the photo evidence. It was at a Wendy's.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was at Wendy's, right? But
So no, wait,
you and I had dinner one evening. You were traveling home, and I met you on the way there.
that was a real fun
I
one,
for
fun meetup,
Yeah, yeah, it was. And
and that
Thomas is
was
angry about that Wendy's.
what year was that? Oh gosh, that was around COVID.
Yeah, it was. I think it was 2021, if I recall correctly.
That sounds right. Because I want to say, I mean, I didn't start really doing any of this stuff until COVID. I mean, that was the whole reason I really started um, to do the live streams.
Yeah.
Now, okay, the first live stream I did, I hit the wrong button over in OBS. I
Oh,
missed start
imagine that.
recording and did start broadcasting. Oh, that was embarrassing. Um, but no, once COVID hit, we started to do stuff on StreamYard. We'd all get together and we debate the sci-fi of the day because there's a lot of good sci-fi going on at that time.
I just played for Anna today your theme song for the virtual pub.
The Life with Matthew. That one?
No, no, the other one.
Or
No, the other one. Life with Matthew, virtual pub.
oh, that's a Piano Dean, I think, made
Yeah.
those. He did such fun stuff. Yeah,
Oh
the
my
theme
goodness.
of what?
Thomas is heading to his bunker because I'm only 2 hours from him right now.
Does your bunker have
By
a car in
by
it?
car.
I head to my bunker to get in my car and come visit. I think that's where we're going with this conversation because I'm not sure why you'd hide in a bunker because Jeff was nearby otherwise.
I I don't know.
Well, I had an interesting day today. So
Oh, tell us
my
about it.
my aunt got a lifetime achievement award for her work in the mental health field. So when it was 16, 17, let's see, what year is it now? Was it 20 years
25.
ago? I think it was actually about 20 years ago. Uh,
Okay.
my cousin committed suicide. And after that, my aunt decided to dedicate her life to helping moms who had gone through similar things and helping people get the resources they needed to identify the stuff that's going on there to help people to not use uh, outdated mindsets for mental health and helping people thinking you're helping people and actually not helping people. And so she set up the Grant Halliburton Foundation in memory of him because that was my cousin's name. And so she got a lifetime achievement award from them called the Beacon of Hope Award, and they renamed it today to be the Vanita Halliburton Beacon of Hope Award. And so my mom found out she was getting this award, and she says, "Hey, how much is a seat at one of these tables? Because it's a banquet, it's a fundraiser." They were $2,500 seats.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And so we're like, yeah, so that's out of our income bracket.
Yeah, mine too.
By any chance, maybe you have like a seat or two, and so they actually held some for us, and they guess we'd love for y'all to come. So me and my mom and my sister went, and it was an interesting time. I met the host from The Bachelorette, a guy named Chris, while I was there. And it was really funny because both of us were like, we do not care about the person we're meeting right now. Like he's this big, TV star guy. And so I was like,
Hmm.
okay, my uncle's introducing me to him. And so he's like, okay, I'm humoring your uncle here. And I'm like, I have no clue who you are. I understand that you're some big name, but if it was William Shatner, then I'd start to get a little excited here. If it was,
Right.
Patrick
Well,
Stewart,
of
I'd be
course.
pretty excited. Kate Mulgrew, I'd be excited.
Oh,
Um,
sure. Yeah.
um,
Amy says he was the host for 19 years.
okay, so Amy looked him up. Yes. Eh, so like neither one of us were really impressed by the other person, but it was an interesting thing. And then they had a baseball player who tried to commit suicide and survived.
Oh,
And
wow.
he used to be on the Texas Rangers, and he's kind of doing a comeback right now on the New York Giants. And the whole time, me and my mom and my sister are like, we are so out of our depth right now. I Thomas, if it was Avery Brooks, I'd say, "Hello, Denzel." No, I
Wow,
would be
Thomas.
appropriately awestruck if I got to meet Avery Brooks. Um,
Well, I don't know. He seems to be out of his mind a bit.
well, I
Have
I
you
do,
seen the center seat?
I have not. I
Okay.
I work so hard not to know anything about anyone in Trek or just actors in general. Like I don't care about an actor's political opinions per se. I
Fair.
I pay money because I think they're really talented at acting and pretending to be someone they're not. I don't care about who they are, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. Yeah, I think George Takei is just great as Sulu, but I don't care for his politics.
Yeah. Uh, the one person that I do love getting to see some behind the scenes stuff on is Robert Picardo. He is like, I'm sure we don't line up eye to eye on many things, but he
Probably
doesn't
not.
go into it.
No, he
He's made
doesn't.
it. He's like, I'm not going to talk politics. He just talks. He does like little quotes that the doctor said back in the day. Um, I saw a quip of him and Harry Kim, the actor who plays Harry Kim,
Garrett Wong.
Garrett Wong. Yeah, and they're doing some barbs back and forth. Wonderful stuff. Uh, so I would enjoy getting to meet him just for the experience and not necessarily to like learn a lot about him.
I think he'd be great to meet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And was it you or someone else who recently in Discord dropped a link to um, Robert Picardo sang the song from
That wasn't me.
uh he sang that song with an actual orchestra, and the guy who it did most of the singing. So the Robert Picardo came in every once in a while, but the guy who did the majority of the singing, clearly a Trek fan. He was geeking out so much to get to sing this duet with Robert Picardo, and
He says
then
it was the Pon Far song?
yes, it was during the doctor is daydreaming. He installed a new memory
Oh, okay,
subroutine.
okay, okay. Yes, yes.
Tuvok, I understand. You
Yes.
are a Vulcan man. It has been
Was it you,
about 7
Omni,
years about
that
that you
posted
have
that?
gone without. It may have been. But and so he actually sang this with this big orchestra, and it was it was hilarious. Hey, Gorilla, how are you doing?
Have a good cigar lounge stream, Gorilla.
I'm sorry. It's just the night this works out. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry about that. Gonna have crossover on YouTube. There's just no way around it. It's gonna happen.
I mean, back in COVID when there was infinite time because we are all stuck, it was real nice that every night, like, we separated things out so there wasn't overlap and stuff. But those days are gone. We gotta be responsible
Yeah,
adults
well,
again.
yeah.
That's good.
And there are so many of us, it's gonna happen.
That's true. The community grew, and that was really nice. Anyway, now that I've done my typical geeking out about Star Trek, let's go to Babylon 5. Uh,
Sounds good.
Jeff, did you have in your wonderful notes there a prediction from last week?
Well, you were going back and forth between it being a Londo's episode and a Jakar episode, but you eventually settled on a Jakar episode with the strife he's going through. You also thought it might have been a group that might have come on the station that is suffering, and Londo would have to go with them and learn from them. But you decided now that it's going to be on Jakar, and we'll see how he is struggling with things and how he's not being listened to, and we will focus on the strife he is going through, what he has to do on a day-to-day basis, going from ambassador to a refugee. So it was kind of short what you said, but short and
Yeah,
sweet.
I think that's a good prediction. Still, a day in the strife, which, as like I pointed out last week, definitely paying homage to a classic TV show, A Day in the Life, where you'd
You're spot on about that. I'll give you that. JMS even alluded to that on the Usenets.
oh yeah, I mean it's definitely obvious that he set this up, and you follow around the rich and famous person as they went a day in their life, so you could see what it was like. I think there's another one, the lifestyles of the rich and famous, maybe. You know what?
Uh,
It may have been ultimately called the lifestyles of the rich and famous, and their tagline was just a day in the life of.
a distinct possibility.
Anyway, let's go ahead and get this going. Short and completely wrong. We'll see. We'll see, Thomas.
I
Usually,
noticed that, Thomas.
but I'll get my feet under me after we get a couple more episodes in, I think, and I'll start to at least get like a quarter right. Um, but hey, if you're here, thank you so much for joining us this week. As always, I hope that you will come and join us in the streaming room. It is that link right up at the top there. And it is only active right now while we are streaming this live. And all it does is it syncs up our watch time so that what I see, you're within a second or two of seeing the same thing. Unless, of course, there's a glitch. And then sorry about that. If you're in the future, sorry, you can't use the streaming room to watch it. You got to have your own source for it. There is so many different options these days, and honestly, we used to say Amazon, but last I checked, that was going away, and then it said it was coming back. So I'm honestly not sure what that is right now, but at the very least, you
The
can.
rumor is, and I don't know if this is accurate. I mean, the date is April 1st, so it's supposed to come back April 1st
All right,
to
April
Amazon Prime.
1st. We'll see.
We
And
shall see.
yeah, I just pulled it up. It says season one coming to Prime in 7 days. So we'll see. Seven
There you
days from
go.
now,
There you
it,
go.
it may be up. But in the meantime, it's on other streaming services that you can watch for free with ads, such as Roku
Roku.
and Tubi TV. Those are the two that
Tubi.
I'm most aware of. I think it was on Discovery, but then I think Thomas said it's off of that now, or Discovery Plus.
Yeah, I looked that up, and he's right.
So, there's just so many options. And then, of course, you can buy them digitally off all the major digital selling places. But as I recommend every week, best option's going to be the physical discs. Go get the Blu-ray copies of them. They're on Amazon for like $70, $75 usually. If it's not, just wait a couple weeks and it goes on sale. And then you have them forever. And you have the higher graphics. It looks great. It's a great series. And if you're going to spend money on a streaming service anyway, skip a couple months and get some physical media instead. Just my 2 cents worth. Uh, if you just want to hang out with us, hey, thanks. I will do my best to
We
stay
appreciate
almost
that.
on topic, and we will include a screenshot with no audio right there once every 7 to 9 seconds, just so that we are kind of doing our best to play nice and stick to the rules of, or stick to the intent of fair use. Because this is not a substitute. Go get the real stuff, and let's go ahead and jump into the show. So I'll give us all a quick 3 countdown, and then you can hit the play button if you're here in the future and want to sync up your watch times. So 3, 2, 1, hit that play button, everyone. And okay, so yeah, just hope Matt didn't hit the wrong key in Sound Blaze 3. Hopefully not. I'm sure that won't happen. And so they just enacted some new policies, they're saying, and it's creating some difficulties. Yeah, there's a Strife. Okay, so help me out here. Last week, what happened last week?
We had a mad bomber.
Oh, yes, the Mad Bomber. And so, in light of the Mad Bomber, it seems like they're taking a couple precautions. And they're talking about doing a lockdown on weapons in response to this. And this
Because
guy,
that's a hell of a mustache.
yeah, kind of a Tom Selleck mustache. And so this guy is saying, without a gun to back you up, you got nothing. So he's pointing out a bit of the hypocrisy that Sheridan um, is standing there with armed guards, and he's talking about taking away what few weapons they do have. And he says, without your gun, you got nothing. So Sheridan walks up, he puts a gun in the guy's pocket, and then takes his weapon from him and goes, okay, you got the gun. And all I've got is what I got. And he's saying, if I drop you, your guards will get me. He goes, maybe not. If anything happens to me, everyone gets an instant promotion. And so he's definitely calling this guy's bluff.
That line reminded me of shades of the mirror universe in Star Trek. Everybody gets an instant promotion.
So the guy says he's just talking big, didn't mean anything by it. So I get you call that the Klingon promotion.
That too.
Uh, and what did Paramount do again, Thomas?
They stole an idea from Babylon 5.
And saying what the guy had gone for it, and meanwhile he's spinning the cartridge. It was he said he palmed it when he put the gun in the guy's pocket, so it was unloaded the whole time. so he's so he's saying, okay, fine, next time I'll give him a live gun. You really want that promotion? Ah,
Oh.
okay. So one of the things they went over um, a couple weeks ago, last season actually, it was the end of last season when I think the long twilight struggle. That was the episode where the homeworld of the Narn was defeated, occupied, captured. And in that episode, Jakar became Citizen Jakar. He had to ask for asylum on Babylon 5. Um, and Londo said that it is the rights and privileges of the Centauri Empire to appoint who will represent the Narn, since they are overseeing the Narn homeworld. And so now we are finally seeing the individual who is going to be uh, representing the Narn. And I feel like we've seen him in the past.
We haven't, at least not in Babylon 5.
Have we seen this actor before? Like in general?
Yes, he was the Bajoran general in the Circle and the Siege on DS9
Okay.
when they were gonna take the station back from the Federation.
Okay. I don't think, knowing me, I don't think I was recognizing him like that. I thought he played maybe a different Narn or a different actor on B5 at some point.
Joel, I'm not having that problem with the audio.
Yeah, Joel, if it's out of sync for you, try refreshing the screening room. That usually fixes it. Okay, so the new ambassador is pointing out uh, he's worried about the fact that Jakar is still here, and he is in this position of power even though he's disposed, and he's concerned that Jakar is raising up a resistance. And when yes, Sinclair, when he says, "Well, isn't that Sheridan?" Did I get it?
Sure,
When
that's Sheridan
Sheridan,
in front of you. Now,
uh,
you may not recognize the Narn in the background.
who is this? I don't. But is that no? That's not the lady who's supposed to replace Natoth.
No.
Okay, so he was saying that, or Sheridan was saying, well, I would have thought that you would be appreciative of them trying to raise a Narn resistance. And this new guy says, no, it's actually creating a lot of problems because for every one of the Centauri a Narn kills, they kill 500 Narn.
Thomas, don't be too hard on Matthew about that because Bruce Boxleitner even got the name wrong once. He said Sinclair when he was talking about his own character. And Josh Tree is right. Matthew, you should remember the Narn with the sword, the other Narn in the room from last season.
Okay, we'll see. I definitely didn't initially, but we'll see. Okay, so they're also touching on the fact that Franklin is not sleeping. He's gone 20 hours without sleep at this point. And it's been kind of a reoccurring thing with him that he's been on and off the stims. And unfortunately, there's some medical emergency, and he's the only medical personnel or doctor available for it because the other doctor is stuck in decontamination and won't be available for another 3 hours. And so apparently, one of the things they were just talking about is how Sheridan is kind of making Babylon 5 more like what he's used to right now. And Garibaldi, when Sheridan first came on, snuck a look at the captain's personal files. And Ivanova says, "Wait a minute, did you look at my personal files?" And he says, "Commander, that information is strictly off limits." And all of a sudden, Franklin is full of pep and energy.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, isn't it?
And Garibaldi is
Garibaldi seems to
yeah.
notice. Oh, Texas says that the woman was Richard Big's wife in
Which
real
woman?
life, the one he was dancing with.
Oh, that's cute. And so, of course, the new ambassador is reporting to the Centauri representative on station. And Londo is saying, "Do you think it'd be safe for me to go to the Narn homeworld at this point?" And he says, "Oh, of course, very safe." And, he says the streets are clear of all ruffians. It seems like General just not really believing him. But then he says, "What about the re-education camps and the executions? The executions continue. The camps are at capacity." And Londo says, "Progress." And I'm with Veer over there.
I'm with Veer as well on this.
And he says, "Okay, you may go contact Jakar now. Go, go." So Veer is quite rightly pointing out, like, what's the point of continuing to do this to them? We've decimated them. They, we've wiped out their major cities. Their planet's in ruins. And Londo is saying that they're always going to be a threat.
Thomas saying here's hearing static when you're talking. I don't
Okay.
hear it myself.
Hold on a second. I'll try and check that.
The Centauri of Conscience.
Okay. Hopefully that's a little bit better there. Veer was asking, like, is it not enough that we've defeated them? Do we also have to break them? And Londo's saying, yes, that's exactly what we have to do. And then there seems to be some new spaceship out there. Uh, a ship of unknown design, unknown origin. They think it's unmanned, just a science probe of some sort. Um, but what they're getting is a pattern of signals repeated over and over.
Seeing more and more of Corwin.
So Londo, uh, kind of, I think, one of his first interactions with Dolores in a long time, at least one on one. And he's saying, I feel like I've lost a friend. And she says, well, you've lost more than a friend. And so he says at one point you asked if I need any favors. All I had to do was ask, and so I'm asking. He says, but don't worry, it's not for myself. It's for Veer.
And that was from A Voice in the Wilderness Part 2 from season 1.
And Josh was saying that the way Londo was acting uh, wasn't the way that some of the officers acted in Japan after World War II. Oh, that had to not just defeat them but break them. And Texas was pointing out that MacArthur actually went out of his way to bring the Japanese people around, uh, not to break them, uh, but ideally to kind of bridge the divide that had understandably been created through being at war with someone. And Londo is the gist of what he's going for is that he believes that Vera would be better off away from here. But he's rightly recognizing that Vera is not okay with everything that's been going on. But Dolores is pointing out quite the opposite. She goes, I think it's rather that you need him. And Londo's saying, I don't need anyone. He's a blight, an inconvenience. And what position are they talking about feeling?
It's kind of like an envoy to Mimbar. Uh, the Centauri had an office there,
Hmm.
not not strictly an ambassador, kind of a step down from that. Diplomatic office, says Omni.
Just don't sell the planet.
Don't give away the home world.
Yes.
Now, I want you to look at those plates. How much pasta is on those plates? It's a huge amount of pasta.
You gotta be able to see it from a distance on camera.
I suppose.
And so clearly Garibaldi is setting up an intervention here. And, kind of reminiscent of, I think it was a season one episode where Garibaldi was talking about his dad, and every year he makes some special meal in remembrance of his dad, and Franklin shared it with him. And so he calls him out. He's like, we're both obsessive compulsive. We're both driven. We're driven to perfection in our line of work. And, one of the last things you want to give someone who's obsessive compulsive is something that's going to uh, grab them. Something like dice or alcohol or stims.
36 hours at a stretch, he's at work.
And yeah, he's like, you're checking in on me. I thought you were my friend, because Garibaldi was saying, I've checked the logs and I can see that you're pulling shifts that you don't have to.
Ouch.
Yeah, so Franklin throws the alcoholism that Garibaldi suffered through in his face. And Franklin realizes that he crossed the line there with that comment. And he says, "Look, I don't have a problem with the stems, but if it makes you happy, I'll cut back because it's not a problem." And so I
So
think, go ahead.
you'll recognize this Narn now.
Ha! You'd like to think that, wouldn't you?
It's played by Marshall Teague.
No, 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 no. I think I got it. The episode with the probe that kidnapped Sheridan, and
Yep.
those two were put into a room to kill each other.
Yep. He's the one. It's the Strive ship.
Okay, the Greys, the aliens.
Hmm.
So I think that by the end of this episode, we're going to see that it's the Sims are quite the issue. That as he tries to back off, he's going to realize how dependent on them, how addicted he's become to them.
And he finally gets a name in this episode. It's Talon.
Oh, so he is the personal bodyguard of the new ambassador, the puppet ambassador.
And
And
Ami's right. He was also in season one, Infection.
oh,
He played the the warrior that was protecting everything.
so they're just saying Sheridan's saying, I don't know what people are going to say about me being friends with the Narn bodyguard. And he says, people will say that here's a man who will live to see 150. And so they've decoded the message, and the probe has been programmed to seek out life, new worlds, and strange civilizations to make contact with them. And so what it's beaming out is some sort of basically IQ test to see if we're worthy of them making contact with us. And it's actually extremely advanced, centuries more advanced than what they have. And saying that if they don't answer all the questions correctly within 24 hours, the probe will detonate with a force of 500 megatons, which seems a bit cruel.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a Vijur. So far, I'm not seeing a lot of Jakar in this episode, so I'm feeling like my prediction may fall short. I got time though.
You have time. We'll see if that time will be kind.
I mean, it could be part of the B plot. I don't know. And yeah, Ivanova is saying, I don't understand. Why would they want to destroy us if we can't answer all their questions? Hey, Maverick Paint, welcome to the stream. How you doing? So I have actually never seen Babylon 5 before. Each week I watch a brand new episode to me. Uh, and uh, I'm watching it live for the first time right now.
Oh, this show is so layered and detailed. Each time you watch it, it's like watching it again for the first time because you'll pick up things that you missed before.
So we're getting to see an interesting opposition of the two viewpoints. And so the new ambassador is saying that it doesn't matter where the food is coming from, the Narn people are surviving. You are the issue because you are causing the death of people on the homeworld. You're causing strife. and Jakar says, "How dare you accuse me? Basically, I'm not the one who launched asteroids at our planets." And Jakar is saying, "We don't have to rely on the Centauri. We're arranging for our own food drops." And they, what is the new ambassador's name? I actually missed that.
So that is Nafar.
Nafar,
Nafar.
not to be confused with
Nafar.
Jafar.
Right.
So Nafar, he's saying that, hey, I think it's just your pride. I think that's what this is really about. So Nafar is not necessarily on the Centauri side. His mindset is that it is more important at this point to rebuild, lick their wounds, bide their time, and the due course of time, then we launch the resistance. Whereas Sakar, he is of the mindset that we need to start building the rebellion right now. We need to set up our own supply chains. We need to press for the resistance.
Well, even Londo recognized Nafar's pride and that, you know, he has to squash it. They have to squash it.
And so Jakar is saying that I'm not going with you back to the home world. I'm not going to be facing punishment right now. Because there's like that's all that awaits him on the homeworld, an execution basically, or at the very least, lifetime imprisonment. And he said, besides the Narn here aren't going to want me to leave. And Nafar says, oh, they might when they find out that if you don't go home, then uh, then you are going, or then they're going to harass their families back on the home world. Oh, Joel, that joke. Boo. He said, is it close? Nah, far. And so, of course, Franklin is already feeling the effects of withdrawal. He's being crotchety with this guy. He's mad about the translator hasn't arrived, even though he's supposed to get here half an hour ago. And he's just clearly on edge, jonesing for the next hit, which is right there.
It's right there.
He's thinking about it. No, not going to do it. And Veer, I don't want to go to Mimbar. And so there's lots of pretty women there as long as you're into the long robes and hard bone set. And so Londo is saying, I want you away from here. I want to protect you. And Varys, I don't want to be protected. And Varys is quite concerned about who will take care of things here. Who's going to take care of Londo? And Varys saying, I don't want you to be alone. And Londo says, I've always been alone. Appointed by whom would be the correct sentence structure there, I do believe. Not appointed by who, but I'll forgive them.
I actually thought he said whom.
Did
Maybe I
he?
misheard it.
I trust your hearing over mine.
Although he is Narn, maybe they are speaking English, maybe they're not, I don't know.
True, it might be
And he just
correct by
got it
Narn grammar rules.
maybe. Well, you wanted more Jakar.
Okay, sorry. Whenever this guy's the actor for Jakar's on stage, it's hard not to stop and just pay attention to him.
Oh, Andreas Casillas, fabulous actor.
So the crux of the issue going on here is that the Narn view Nafar as a turncoat, a traitor, and the bodyguard he he's steps up and he defends when the guy's trying to assassinate the Nafar from the back, and you see another Narn pull a weapon, a blaster of some sort. It looked like brass knuckles, but with a gun on the end of it instead of instead of just used for punching. And Jakar jumps in and saves the day. And he says, "Have I not taught you better than this? Are we not better than this?" And he says, "If my returning to Narn is what will purchase peace, then to Narn I will go." so so the pilots association is asking when they can continue the meeting that they had earlier about confiscating weapons, which I'm sorry, what's his comment?
She tells him that he finds the good in every situation, and he says, "Yeah, I don't wanna be like you."
Oh, and she goes, "Did you hear that?" No, I didn't hear anything. Um, but so the which I mean, confiscating weapons. I'm sorry, never the right move. Never ends up well, no matter who's doing it for what reasons. Uh, but he says, "How soon until the probe blows up?" And he says, "6 hours." Okay, tell the pilot association I'll meet with them in 7 hours. So Garibaldi has come to apparently talk Jakar out of going. And Garibaldi, he's saying, if you go back, you're just gonna be killed. And Jakar says, if I didn't know better, I think you might be genuinely concerned for me. And Garibaldi is. Oh,
That's a nice scene between the 2 of them.
it is. Andreas, he does such a good job of conveying emotion in this much prosthetics.
He does.
But he says, "Thank you for your concern. Good night." Okay, so the molecular biology questions that they're asking about are specifically being asked by the probe. And Franklin is A little bit correct, but at the same time being very wrong about his rightness.
Hmm.
He just tore into this poor lady who is having a hard time finding someone, and she's like, well, he's on vacation. Now Franklin is right in his response. He says, I don't care, you find this guy, you use his emergency code, you get him off vacation, or else there's going to be 250,000 dead people. But he goes a little bit too far in threatening her, and then um, he ends up taking a hit of the stim pack.
Yeah.
And so Nefari's giving a speech to Narn on the station saying that citizen Jakar, thank you, Dr. Crusher, for your donation. She says, this Dr. Franklin seems to be a stand up guy. He and I should work together. You wouldn't like him, Beverly. He's still alive.
Texas disagrees with you. He thinks stims or no stims. I'm right
Oh, no.
with him, or he's right with him on that one.
I think he was right in telling her to get up and use the emergency codes. It was the last bit where he was like, you do it right now, or else the last thing I do before I die is going to make sure that you get disbarred. And you're going to be out on your backside so quick it's going to leave skid marks. And so Sheridan is noticing some incongruities in this test that doesn't make any sense for a race to give the opportunity for uh, for advanced technologies, but kill you if you get it wrong. A- And he says, I think the opposite is going to be true. That if what they want to do is weed out any potential uh, conflicts, any potential enemies, that if you send all the answers and you get it right, then the probe's going to blow itself up and wipe you out. And so Sheridan decides at the last second, don't send it. And so Sheridan is like, yeah, we took care of the problem right now, but what about the next guy? So they're gonna, once the probe is far enough away, they're gonna have one of the remote drones upload the answers so that it will self-destruct itself. Texas is saying she should deserve that if she, getting fired. If her reluctance to act resulted in the destruction of the station and all 250,000 aboard, she'd probably be fired even if Franklin didn't send a report. Yeah, my only quibble with it is the way in which he went about saying it. That he is acting in an unhinged manner from withdrawal, and the emphasis of yes, get off your backside and make this happen. People's life are at risk. Needed to be said. The the way that he did it, I disagree with. I think there's a better way to lay out the same level of emphasis without doing it in such an unhinged manner. Now, to be fair, I'll also say this: if it is well known that someone's personality is a very kind of militaristic guy, I've had a few bosses like this where it was they barked the orders and you were to do them, then I would have no problem with that because they weren't mad at you. That's just how they gave orders. Uh, the issue going on here is that Franklin is not that person. And for him to be acting in this manner, which is so contrary to who he is, he's acting in a grossly inappropriate manner. Precisely because he's going through withdrawal. And so someone was trying to stop Jakar from leaving, and Jakar says, "No, I must go. I do what I must." And more people are trying to stop him. You're needed here. He says, this foolishness. I'm doing this for you. And there's the bodyguard. And all of them are saying, we can't let you go. The only way you're going to get through is if you go through us. And he says, but if I stay, all of your families are at risk. What can be more important than this? What's more important than the safety of your families? And this guy speaking on screen right now, he says, uh, our freedom. Our freedom is more important. Fight for them here.
No reward is worth this.
Dr. Franklin, thank you for your donation. Says, how dare you? I'm not unhinged. You stop bad mouthing me or you will never be on YouTube again. And so uh, the guy draws his sword on him, and Jakar says, you draw a sword on an unarmed man? Have I taught you nothing? And Jakar says, or sorry, the bodyguard says, the way I see it, you have a sword in your mind and in your heart. You outnumber me 2-1. Have some sympathy. And then the guy, he grabs his own sword and draws it. Uh, and I'm did he make a reference to this earlier in the episode? Something about the blood once, or the sword once drawn cannot be sheathed without blood.
I don't think he did it in this episode.
And so Garibaldi is saying, "Hey, I may have jumped the gun a little bit when we talked. Um, this is your call." And Franklin is claiming that he does have it covered. And he's saying, I went through the stuff with a probe and a bunch of sick patients, and I never touched the stuff once. So lying through his teeth. And he says, so where are the heroes of the hour?
I Yep.
And they're dealing with the Pilots Association. Hey, Mercer, how you doing? And here we see Veer on his way to depart. Not feeling too happy about it, and Londo shakes his head yes, as in, yeah, go, do this. And we end on the episode, Welcome to Babylon 5.
Joel, I think Veer has been growing since the beginning of the series.
All right, so day in the Strife. Jeff, what's your thoughts?
Uh, this was kind of another bottle episode, and it makes you wonder what might be coming if they're having a couple bottle episodes already. So yeah, watch for that. I think this episode gives a slightly different spin to Franklin on his situation. If you go back and see what he's done prior in the series, you might think, well, maybe the stems had something to do with it. Maybe that's why he doesn't seem to be so likable up to this point. I think he's more likable now than he had been, like in season 1, early season 2, but, um, yeah, I just get that impression, maybe the stems, and we've had an allusion to the stems before, they've been mentioned
Mm-hmm.
before. So, maybe that gives you a different perspective on him, on what's going on with him. Um,
I
as
think he's
far
been
as
mentioned 3 times before,
3
like
3 times?
counting this episode.
Okay.
That's just a
You
gut
could be right
feeling because
about that.
I know we mentioned it at least once before this episode, and I want to say that the last time we heard it, I remember thinking, "Oh yeah, they mentioned at some other point that he had done some stems or something like that." Uh,
Josh, I'm not sure what
huh.
you're referring to there. Um, Now, Veer's departure here was actually had a real world reason to it. Stephen First was starring actually at this time in a sitcom on Fox.
Oh,
So that pulled him away from Babylon 5 some. Now, I'm not saying he won't be back. He will be back. Um, but that's the reason why they wrote this into the storyline where was going to go to Mimbar. So there's a real world aspect to this. Um, did you notice Sheridan referred to the probe as a berserker?
I did not. That
Okay,
was
when
at the end,
toward the
giving his
end,
summary of why would it. Well, maybe it's actually here to get rid of anyone who can answer the questions.
and I think that's a nod to Fred Saberhagen's Berserker novels. I don't know if you've read those.
I have not.
They have automated war machines that seek out and destroy other life forms.
Is that a fairly famous sci-fi story?
It's kind of well known.
Hmm.
Hey, John, welcome. Yeah, you may want to check that out. And what's interesting about the probe, now I don't know if the probe kind of meshed well with all the other storylines. You had like four different stories going on here. But JMS wrote that into the script um, because of SETI, in fact. SETI used to be spelled CETI for contact extraterrestrial intelligence instead of searching or seeking. Um,
Okay.
and in 1978, the government printing agency they, they had a discussion about, well, what would happen if we actually contacted extraterrestrial intelligence, and it was decided that we should do nothing. It, we should not be trying to contact them. We should only maybe see if they are out there, not try to contact them because of this very scenario where we could be wiped out. So he kind of took that and added it to this script in a B5 setting where you had this probe coming, seeking for intelligence that might be capable of destroying them. So it destroys them, the probe destroys them first.
Hmm.
I thought this was a strong Jakar episode now. Andreas Kasoulis again. Amazing actor. And as you said, he emotes so well through all the prosthetics. Strong episode for him. It reestablishes his presence on B5 as the voice of the Narn and the voice of the kind of the resistance. He is trying to formulate this resistance against the Centauri, and this just supports that. The Narn there on the station, even though their families may be harassed or punished or tortured, they still want him there, even though the Centauri were trying to get him off the station to go back and essentially be killed eventually once he gets
Hmm.
back to Narn. They are still with him. They see him as their leader on the station. So it was a strong episode for Jakar. Um, yeah, you had all these little stories going on. So it was a day in a life, a day in a strife
Hmm.
episode, and it was done pretty well, I thought.
Yeah, it was done very well. I do see what you mean about it being a bottle episode. Um,
Yeah, in a way, it was.
they didn't have much in the way of, excuse me, didn't have much in the way of new sets. Like I don't think they had any
Mhm.
new. Well, excuse me. Sorry, I was gonna
Perhaps,
hit my
perhaps
bedtime.
the one,
Um,
perhaps the one where Sheridan and Ivanova were meeting with the pilots. That might have been a redress. By the way, there was some sparkling dialogue in this as far as humor. Ivanova had some great lines, I thought, and so did Garibaldi.
mhm. Um,
So there was some good humor in this story.
See, the most new that they did for it, I think, was the probe. I don't think we've
Yeah,
seen that design before. Uh,
no, and we don't know who sent it, and that's a good question. Who sent it?
yeah, and will we see them again? I don't know yet. Because I mean, it's entirely possible, just that it's a one-off thing for this episode, and then we're never going to see it again. But it's also possible that this is the first. I'm so sorry.
Thomas says it was the Gorn.
It could also be that this was how they are introducing a new race. Um, and that's kind of the thing here. So far, all we've seen of those affiliated with the Shadow Spiders are kind of these somewhat more demonic creatures, uh, and the Centauri. But the Centauri have been kind of tricked into it. Oh, and Earth, the new Earth government through discount Rod Sterling. But in
Right.
terms of races that are truly 100% on board with the Shadow Spiders, it's been more of the creatures of darkness. And so there has to be some races out there that we haven't been introduced to yet that are more at the mundane level, kind of the Centauri. And this, it's been a while since I brought this theory up, but I talked briefly about how you kind of have the categorizations of the races within Babylon 5, that you had the tier 1 people like the shadow spiders and the light spiders, and it seems like cautious people are kind of like a tier 1.5. They're above us, but they're not quite at their level, which is why they're very tentative about them, and they're not ready for a direct confrontation with them. And then below that, you have the tier 2 people, which is the humans, the Narn, the Centauri, the Imbari, people like that. And then tier 3 are the people who have space-faring technologies, but they don't have the presence and dominance and military force. Kind of the third world nation, to kind of use the UN example that we've been seeing throughout Babylon 5. So it seems like there should be some tier 2 people that are aware of the shadow spiders and have fully embraced them, and are doing everything they can to weaken any opposition in the universe to the spider people coming through. um, so that's not really here nor there about the episode. The episode itself, um, honestly, the day in the strife title, I feel like the true two plots of this episode was what we had going on with Garibaldi and what we had going on with Jakar. Or not Garibaldi, technically Dr. Franklin. I mean, Garibaldi was part of the Dr. Franklin plot predominantly, but really it was about Dr.
Yep.
Franklin and Jakar. Those were what I would call the two main things. And then everything that was going on, which is the true A plot with the probe, that was just window dressing so that we could see what was going on in the two lives of these people. And
And
honestly,
you had a little bit going on with fear too.
yeah. Um,
So, you had like 4 different things going on in the story. And I thought they meshed, except for maybe the probe, fairly well.
mhm. I mean, even the probe provided a decent enough backdrop to create a true amount of stress to break Dr. Franklin and have him go back to the stems. I mean, you gotta have something sci-fi going on. You always had that in Trek 2 with TNG.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
so it would be the plot, but it wasn't what the story was really about.
No. Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
and I think it's interesting. I'm probably wrong about this, but I swear watching Londo this week, and I was watching I was watching some of the end of season 2 today, and um, I don't feel like Londo likes himself right now. He and it feels like he's trying to punish himself in some way. That because this is interesting. In the episode, whichever episode it was, the one where they bombed the Narn homeworld. Um,
Twilight Struggle.
okay, it was okay. Twilight Struggle. You had this dialogue that happened with Londo and Rifa, and uh, Londo was horrified about them using the mass drivers, and he's like, "But there's treaties," and Rifa's like, "Ah, mere words on paper, ink on paper, nothing more than ink on paper." And uh, Londo is adamantly against using the power of the Shadow Spider people. And he keeps saying, no, I want Centauri to be great again, but I wanted us to be great by our own power, by the strength of our own hands. And I get the feeling that Londo wanted everything that happened to happen, but he didn't want it to happen the way it happened. He wanted the end result, but he's not happy with how they got there.
I think that's accurate.
And we see him talk about this with Rod Sterling, where he says, "What do I want? I'll tell you what I want. I want Centauri to be great again. Uh, I want us to have the power that we had it, in the past." And so he's getting that, but he's not happy with what he's seeing now that they have that. And so we just get a couple moments here and there where I really get the feeling Londo doesn't like himself right now. That he's unwilling to say we did anything wrong. He doesn't necessarily want Centauri to roll back on their progress, but he is displeased with the actions that he's taken. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense.
It makes Centauri great again. MCGA.
Well, is essentially that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to make the Centauri great again.
I am Narn Lives Matter. I'm extremely interested to see where the STEM plotline goes, because he is, and it's interesting too, because he has, through this STEM issue, created a much better framework for an anti-drug message than we got with the ham-fisted I don't understand, Tasha. Why would some people do that?
Well, JMS is a better writer than what TNG writers were season 1.
And to be fair, I get the feeling that was being shoehorned in at the behest of some exec. And so they weren't exactly bringing their A game in that conversation.
Right.
But so I get the feeling that we're going to have to come to a point where this creates a major issue in Franklin's life. Because so far, all we've seen is the benefit. He's exhausted, he's tired, boom, takes a hit. Now he's peppy and he has energy and he can do his work and he's happy and he's sociable. It has to backfire in a dramatic way at some point. And I'm curious to see how that's going to backfire. And I remember you saying at one point that JMS does not take long to answer these sort of questions. That
yeah, he doesn't leave things lingering for the most part.
And Texas is saying that knowing JMS, it's not going to be an anti-drug message per se. It'll be a deep look at Franklin's character flaws. Yeah.
Because that's the type of writer he is.
That's kind of the interesting thing. Even in this episode, there's nothing. I think they were saying there's nothing illegal with doing stims. The issue was when you have someone who is obsessive compulsive and they start to take stims, they're going to find themselves addicted to stims. And that's the issue. Not that you are taking it, but that you're taking it addictively. And that ends up messing up your life. So So yeah, I'm curious to see where that goes. I'm curious to see how that gets resolved, and probably not going to be like I imagine it's going to be first half of this season at some point. But it needs to be a dramatic failure for him, like like a situation where one of the main characters or secondary characters perhaps is in a life and death situation precisely because of his stim usage. And if he hadn't been using it, then they wouldn't be facing this situation. I can totally see that happening.
Oh,
But
as they say, time will tell. It always
time will
does.
tell. This great episode in general. Andreas, the guy who plays Jakar, phenomenal, just phenomenal. His acting. I'm really glad that he had not stayed the somewhat one-dimensional character we were first introduced to at the beginning of the series.
Well, I think he was intentionally written that way
Mm-hmm.
at the start, just to lull us into, you know, a sense that he was just that type of character.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I can absolutely see it, and I can see
And,
Londo being the lovable one, precisely.
yeah,
So now that they switched roles, it is so impactful.
and I think you're seeing most of the characters here starting to have some changes to them. I mean, you mentioned Londo and Jakar. Dolores definitely has had some changes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we're starting to see Franklin have some changes. Ivanova, I think, has had a few.
At the very least, she's had her character fleshed out more.
Yeah, definitely
She,
that.
she's definitely kept the core of who she is, but you've
And
learned more about why she is that way.
I loved her humor in this particular episode, and we'll get more of that. A minor spoiler there.
So yeah, wonderful episode.
It was very good, very good. And
Next week,
yeah, and just one more thing.
sure.
As you'll, yeah, if you go back to watch this series again, you'll notice some other things. It'll start tying together. And yes, I know spoilers, Thomas. Um, a minor spoiler. I didn't reveal that
Oh,
Kosh would
oh.
be pregnant by the end.
Now I know Jeff wouldn't actually spoil it for me. Um, so I was just looking at the episode list, and I'm noticing that there are a few episode titles in this season that have somewhat biblical tie-ins to them. And
Hmm.
maybe it's just the two that I noticed and like, oh, that's interesting. But next week is one of the ones that has a major biblical tie-in with its title, and that is Passing Through Gethsemane. And on the biblical level, Gethsemane is a garden where Jesus regularly went to pray and have time of one-on-one fellowship with the Father. And it was most notably in the Bible referenced as his final place that he went to just pour his heart out before God, and saying, God, if there's any way, please don't make me die. And it's an incredible scene where when we talk about how, Christ has borne our burdens and that he has encountered every last thing that we had to encounter, yet without sin, like he was having a full on panic attack, begging, pleading, oh, God, please don't make me go die. Don't make me bear your wrath in the Garden of Gethsemane. And um, he says, but ultimately, not my will, but your will, Father, be done. And even though he was scared so deeply about the pain and the punishment that was coming, his ultimate response and why he was the perfect sacrifice for our sins is that he said, not my will, Father, but yours be done. And so, as the title "Passing Through Gethsemane," I can't help but feel it's making a direct reference to this, as and it's also where he was famously betrayed. And I think this is probably where they're going. They're going to use the idea of Gethsemane to have that idea of kind of like how someone might say going through the valley of the shadow of death. alluding to Psalm 23. I can see Gethsemane being that same way. He's going through a time of extreme persecution, a trial, an extreme trial. And I think it would make the most sense when you're passing through Gethsemane to have it be a point of betrayal as well. Now, the question is who's going to be passing through the Garden of Gethsemane, or passing through Gethsemane in general? Gosh. So the most Christ-like figure we've seen in the show so far is obviously Kosh, but you can't have a Kosh-centric episode unless it was something like someone trying to follow Kosh around and, like, you know, trying to spy on him and stuff. And then Kosh is the focus in the same way that the Maltese Falcon was the focus back in Casablanca. No, Maltese Falcon, sorry. The movie is literally called the Maltese. Anyway, me getting names wrong aside, that's how you can see Kosh being this center focus of an episode. So I gotta pass him through or cross him off. It could be interesting to see Londo going through this time of trial that he himself has created. I don't know. I almost get the idea that I really want him to have that redemption arc, but I feel like it's still too soon. I feel like it's too soon for him to be brought to his lowest point, a betrayal point. But they also, don't be taking notes yet, Jeff. I'm just talking out loud. They also did set up that he's getting cut out. The Shadow Spider people are now talking directly to Rifa, so I can see there being some betrayal there. So here's the other thing about this season so far. Every episode that we've seen, so amazing 3 episodes, so not a lot of stuff to work with here. But so far, every episode hasn't directly tied into, like, the point of the episode hasn't been, hey, here's the main plot line going on. It's here's stuff that's happening, and oh, by the way, here's a plot line going on. Here's this plot line going on. And so I get the feeling we're not going to have a huge focus on the main plot line, at least until the midpoint. Like, we'll have a midpoint episode. The series is kind of a highlight. They'll kind of bring things together in a major way. So it wouldn't make too much sense for it to be Londo. We've been focusing on Londo. We just had a Garibaldi episode. Maybe Dolores? We kind of already had her arc of being ostracized by her own people, and it seems like she's come into more of her own now that she's kind of affiliated with the Rangers more closely.
I think we're stumping you here.
We are. There's just I'm trying too hard to
Well,
to go with this.
while you're mulling that over in your head, how close do you think you came this week? You really didn't say.
I don't. I mean, even though we did have a little bit of, like, he was part of the B plot. Jakar was part of the B plot, and seeing his strife. But my prediction was really that it's going to be digging in deep of how irrelevant almost he's become. And instead, we saw quite the opposite, that he is seen as extremely relevant to the Narn on the station. Far from being a voice crying the wilderness all by himself, he's instead like, the Narn people are like, no, we need you here. We need you to continue pushing for the resistance right now. So I can give myself like a 10% because Jakar was having strife, but I think that's me being generous in of itself.
I think I'd give you a 33 and a third there.
You
One
are
third.
much kinder to me than I am. Passing through Gethsemane. Pardon, this betrayal. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna go with Mondo. It's gonna be obviously I'm gonna say that this isn't gonna be the main plot lines. I'm clearly seeing that the main plot line is gonna be something I can't predict. But one of the things that are happening around the main plot line and really the true point of the episode is going to be Londo going through a trial that he's created for himself, and I think he's going to find a point of betrayal by the end of the episode, where we start to see him at his lowest, and we started to get that a little bit today, where he made the reference to Dolores about how, oh, I feel like I'm losing friends. It's been so long since we talked, and both times she's like, you're not, you lost way more than a friend. Like, hey, let's be real. I wasn't your friend to begin with, but you've lost something more important than that. And then when he said, it's been so long since we've talked, she shut him down a second time and said, we never talked. And so I think Londo is really getting to the point where he's trying to have his cake and eat it too. He wants the friendships that he enjoyed when he was irrelevant, but he wants those friendships now that he's come to power in a horrible way. And even he, I think, does recognize that he came to power in a bad way. And so I think he's going to be continuing that path and kind of reaching a low point, at least the beginning of a low point, as he's becoming so isolated to the point that like no one wants to have anything to do with him. The one person that wanted to have anything to do with him, he just drove off the station.
Mm-hmm. I almost get the impression that Londo is thinking, well, I got rid of cheap Rod Sterling. I'm getting rid of these shadows. Now things can start going back to the way they were. Except nobody really knows how deep he was with them. And I don't think it really matters that he got rid of them because of what happened. Josh wants to know how much rope I'm going to give you. Much more rope I'm going to give you.
Just enough to hang myself.
I won't give you quite that much.
So I look forward to seeing if I'm anywhere in the ballpark next week. And I look forward to kind of catching up on some of the past episodes. I always go back and watch them a second time, and I'm a couple episodes behind right now just because I've been busy. But I do look forward to getting caught back up, and because, man, rewatching it the second time and just being able to give it my full attention, that helps a lot. But even the stuff I do catch again, I see it in such a different light the second time. And I really love getting to watch it that second time.
And this is, well, sort of my second time, because I always rewatch the episode before the stream so I can pick up on things that we can talk about.
Well, all right, guys. Thanks for being with us. Jeff, thank you so much for making it happen tonight.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you, Matthew. And again, I want to thank everyone for your thoughts, prayers, concern. It's deeply appreciated. Thank you for your donations. Bless you all.
Absolutely. And take care, and we will see you guys next week.
See you next week.
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to hit that like button and share it with your friends. If you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you will. And be sure to hit that bell icon to be notified of all the updates I do on this channel. If you want to support the work I'm doing here, then I hope you'll consider becoming one of my Patreons, where you'll get early access to all kinds of videos. And until the next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.